Hey guys, Crewman here, and I am adding this quick snippet to the front of my AMD press conference recap video because about a third of what I'm going to talk about wasn't even shared. So AMD released about 5 or 6 slides of RDNA 4 to the press and then decided not to announce them. So at first I didn't want to break an accidental embargo, so I paused the release of the video, and then I figured I can't release the video without context. So my AMD rep gave me an okay to release the 5 slides that they talked about, even though they weren't mentioned in the press conference. Now, I'm not releasing all 5 as I only care about 2 of them, and I'll be sharing, one is right here, and I'll be sharing the other one in a second. But I just wanted to give you some context on why my press recap will sound a lot different than what you actually saw. So, like I said, I'm adding this to the front of the video. A very interesting decision from AMD to not talk about RDNA 4. They did talk a lot about Dell and their AI compute platforms that they're releasing, and I'm not going to go over that because I don't think my audience cares about it. So this is going to get attached to the front of my press conference recap. So remember, once this is done, it's going to go to the other video where I assumed AMD would talk about RDNA 4. So you can see that RDNA 4 coverage right now. Hey guys, Crewman here, and AMD just finished up with their keynote at CES 2025, and I'm going to give you a super slimmed down version of it with some of my opinions right now. Now let's just cut to the chase, and here's what you've all been waiting for. AMD announced RDNA 4. They announced 2 models at the press conference, the RX 9070 XT and the RX 9070. You can see all the board partners and all the renderings here. There was nothing of note. All the board partners look to be just the standard AMD board partners. And you can see the renderings of the RDNA 4 GPUs, which look pretty cool. Now, they also talked about FSR 4, just gave some basics of it, and they basically explained that RDNA 4 has next generation RT cores, AI cores, etc. But what I'm sure you really wanted to see is the performance targets and how they rebranded. So let's talk about the rebranding real quick. It was interesting. So AMD basically had 2 reasons for rebranding. The first reason was that they wanted their CPUs and GPUs to basically have the same naming nomenclature, like Ryzen 9000 CPUs and Ryzen 9000 GPUs. I don't really agree with it, but it's fine. The next one is really, really interesting, guys, and I think it's smart, but part of me is like, oh, come on, AMD, don't play into their games. The second thing is they wanted to change up the naming nomenclature to be more similar to NVIDIA's so that you kind of understood where the performance targets would be. And I think it's smart in one aspect because everybody knows NVIDIA GPUs, for better or for worse, they are the big dog with the most market share. But at the same point, do your own thing, AMD, but I do get it. So let's talk about the performance targets of the 9070 XT. This is going to take me a minute to get used to saying this, guys. The top-end model, the performance targets look to be somewhere around the 7900 XT or the RX 4070 Ti. Now, it doesn't make any mention of the 4070 Ti Super, so it will be interesting if you can maybe overclock it to hit those performance targets, but this is just from AMD, and we'll have to see once we get data from third-party reviewers whenever that comes. 9070, the RX 9070, I guess, their performance targets for the mid-range, higher-end RDNA 4 GPU would be the 7900 GRE and the RX 4070 Super. So I guess in that sense, the rebranding is kind of helping because, you know, the 9070 XT might go against the 4070 Ti or the 7900 XT. I don't know. I'm still getting used to the whole thing. And then we have the RX 9060 series. So again, they're kind of doing the 70 class and the 60 class, copying NVIDIA. I mean, I guess. And you can see that their performance targets for that class generally range from the 7600 XT on the low end to the 7800 XT on the high end, and then the 4060 on the low end to the 4060 Ti on the high end. So we'll see. No announcement on price and no announcement on release date other than Q1. I think now we can understand why the RDNA 4 leaks were all over the place, because some people were saying it was like the 4070 Ti, some people were saying it was like the 4080. Well, this kind of clears it up, and I guess it's good to see that AMD is showing you what their performance targets are. Again, we'll have to wait to see what third-party reviews give us in terms of performance, so the jury's still out on that. And the biggest thing for me is I need to see the price of these, because if these are your performance targets, that's fine, but the price is everything. The B580 set the ball with Intel. We'll see what NVIDIA does later today, if they do anything, but AMD, the ball's in your court. You cannot get the price wrong, or that's it. All right, so let's move on to the CPUs. AMD unveiled a few of those, so let's talk about them. The first two that they unveiled were the 9950X3D and the 9900X3D. The biggest thing you need to know about these is 170 watt TDP on the 9950X3D, 16 core, 32 thread, 5.7 max gigahertz. The 9900X3D has 12 cores, 24 threads, 5.5 max boost, 120 watt TDP. Both of these have similar architecture design to the 9800X3D, which is good. So it seems like there will not be any issues in gaming performance like we had with the last gen. What is interesting is if you look at AMD's own benchmarks. Now, obviously, we have to wait till third-party reviewers get their hands on them, but AMD basically says the 9950X3D is within 1% of gaming benchmarks as the 9800X3D. So if you've already bought a 9800X3D, fear not, you're still golden. But what they really emphasized at the presentation was the content creation aspect of this. Essentially, without getting into too many details, they basically said that this is a 9800X3D in gaming with the productivity numbers like in content creation, rendering, etc. to back it up, which makes it a pretty appealing CPU. Again, it will come down to the price, but if you were waiting, then you probably were smart to wait, because you're not going to most likely see any of the shortfalls that the 9800X3D has in terms of content creation and non-gaming applications, although I must say I do enjoy my 9800X3D a lot. But it's good to see that AMD was forthcoming with their performance targets, and this really looks like it's going to be a fantastic all-around CPU, so I'm pretty excited for it. Next, we have the laptop GPUs. The biggest thing that stood out to me was the fact that we're finally going to get X3Ds on laptops. I think we're getting to the point now where laptop gaming is pretty good, and the fact that we're getting X3D chips on a laptop is pretty exciting. It's the 9955HX3D. That is a mouthful to say. 16 core, 32 thread, 5.4 gigahertz max boost, 54 watt TDP. The biggest thing I got out of it was X3D chip for laptops, and it'll be available in Q1 2025. The other two models were the 9955X and the 9850HX, but they honestly didn't really interest me. You can see their specs right there. So X3D chips finally coming to laptops, pretty excited for it. All right, and the final thing I want to go over, and the primary reason that I waited to film this until the morning right before AMD's press conference in my hotel room, which is why the audio sounds a little bit echoey, and I apologize for that, is AMD's next generation mobile gaming chips. You have the Z2 Extreme, the Z2, and the Z2 Go. You can see all the specs up here. The biggest thing I want to share about the Z2 Extreme, it's got 8 cores, 16 threads. It's got a 15 to 35 watt TDP and 16 graphics cores. Now, AMD said that these will be on their next generation mobile handhelds, and they talk about different AIBs releasing handhelds based on this architecture. They did say that you'll start seeing this in Q1 2025. That was basically everything I wanted to share with you guys. There was some AI and enterprise stuff, but none of it was really interesting. None of it was even interesting to me as a fan of AI. So I just kind of didn't want to bother you with it. I will say I am disappointed that we did price announcements on RDNA 4, or we didn't get any price announcements on the 9950X3D, but it is what it is. Overall, though, I think it was a very strong performance by AMD. Again, it's all going to come down to price, however, but if they can price RDNA 4 correctly based on the market, I think AMD's got a real winner on their hands. So thank you guys for watching this one. Stay tuned for a ton of more CES content. We're just beginning. We've got a whole week here. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more CES content. Peace out.